There's an achievement in Elden Ring Nightreign named a Champion's Path. You can get the achievement by, quote, defeating the Night Lord with all characters. Now, when I saw that for the first time, I thought it meant you had to beat the final Night Lord, the Night Aspect, or Heal Store, or however you say it, with each character, but that just isn't true. It just means that you have to beat a Night Lord with every character, any Night Lord. And that's when I noticed something kind of funny. There are, as of this moment, 8 playable characters, and, not counting the Everdark Sovereign versions, there are also 8 Night Lords. So, because I love trying and getting good with every character in the games I play, I will be picking one character to take on each Night Lord until I have taken out all 8 and claimed the achievement. To be clear though, this achievement isn't exactly that hard to get, though it is the rarest achievement, besides the achievement for getting all the achievements. I'm starting to feel like achievement is not a word, I've said it too much, but I think people just aren't getting it because they like to pick a character or two and they stick with those for the most part. But if you're watching at home, I encourage you to try this challenge for yourself. Try out every character, they're fun. Get that achievement, I believe in you. Also, I'll use a brand new profile for this because, I don't know, it just kind of seemed fair to not have a bunch of really good relics and stuff to use. And then before we get started, do me a huge favor and hit the like button. I learned in my last video that likes actually make a huge difference for a video's place in the algorithm, so I'd really appreciate it. Alright, enough talk, let's achieve. Starting off, we of course are going to be taking on the Tricephalos expedition first, and to carry me through it, I have selected Raider. I did a little spreadsheet and found out that I was actually able to make these matchups in a way where I would be beating each Night Lord with a different character for the first time. So for instance, I have never beaten Gladius with Raider. I have never beaten the Gaping Jaw with, well, we'll get there, but I think you get the point. That being said, Raider himself is a pretty simple character. Honestly, I think it's fair to say that he is the most simple character. And that's not a dig at Raider, he's fun, but as far as like technical ability and thinking goes, you don't really have to do a whole lot of that. I started off well by getting a Golem's Halberd from the Virgin Abductor, I like that better than Abductor Virgin, and then picked up a Stone Sword Key. Then after grabbing a flask from a nearby church, I ran into the Leonine Misbegotten. Fun little fact, while I beat his ass, he actually drops more runes and better rewards if you run into him in the field like I just did, versus when you fight him in an encampment is miserable to say, holy. Okay, well I think you get the idea. He's still a pretty weak boss though, so I'm always happy to find him either way for some easy runes. We're not done with the boss fights yet though, because right over yonder I found the Tree Sentinel. Not quite as easy as the Misbegotten, in fact I even got stupid on my first try and he killed me for it, and then because of that, the storm started closing in for the Night 1 boss and I had to skedaddle. I did also try my best to take down a Crucible Knight on my way to that Night 1 circle, but I was just too stressed about time and once again ran away. The boss for that night would be the Demi-Human Duo, as heralded by the little demi-human bastards that spawn in first. I took care of them fairly easily, and as the actual bosses spawned in, I got in a decent amount of damage there right away. I kept chipping away, and after a big old falcon punch, the Demi-Human Queen was just about out. Then it was Yoda and I left, and that poor little sucker did not stand a chance. Damn. I got to improve my rolling as a reward, and we were on to day 2. My primary objective for day 2 was just to level up, and unfortunately I could tell that the Royal Revenant was the boss at the bottom of the castle, and fuck that guy, so I went back and finished off that Tree Sentinel I had found earlier. He didn't have much health left, so it took all of 30 seconds, and the reward for killing him was the Beast Claw Great Hammer, an amazing weapon for this Night Lord as it deals holy damage, which the final boss is weak to. I had a fun, but albeit incredibly short-lived fight with the Grave Warden Duelist, which let me improve my stance breaking, as if I needed it, and nearby I picked up the last remaining flask. The first circle was already closing in when I next ran into the Ulcerated Tree Spirit. I was prepared for an easy fight, but that made me kinda reckless and I got blowed up. All good, I came back with a vengeance and then put his ass down. Shortly thereafter, the second circle began closing in, and while I tried picking off as many stragglers as I could, I was still only level 11 going into that night's boss fight. And that boss would be none other than the Fell Omen himself. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I fucked him up. I mean, look at this poor bastard, he can't even hit me. Okay, well, it wasn't a perfect fight. Okay, maybe I did lie to you guys. I guess I didn't fuck him up like I remembered. I wrote that before actually seeing what happened. Well, regardless of how poorly I may have done, I still clutched up in the end. That sent me to the final boss, and while I could have technically hit level 13, I settled for level 12 so that I could still buy some goodies as well. Then I stepped through the door and my battle began. Gladius took me about 16 hours to beat for the very first time, and I was not going to let that be the case this time. With an ult that did some good damage, into a stun, into a very greedy hit, into a very lucky crit, he was almost down to half his health already. My ult pranked me and went away right as I was going to use it to hide from his little splitting up attack thing, and that left me kind of scrambling as he jumped me. I had a Wending Grace though, and so once he was back together, I kept fighting hard. I'm pretty bad at dodging his massive fire attack, so that sucked, but I was chunking his health with each hit. I mean, look at the damage on this hit. I think it was because I hit multiple of him at the same time, but that is insanity. Because of my great weapon and also my totally awesome skill, I had beaten the first Night Lord on my very first try. Let's see if I can keep that up. For the second Night Lord, the Gaping Jaw, I will be playing as Recluse. I had played her a decent amount going into this, but I wasn't very good with her. She's just not how I normally play. But that's alright though. I dropped into a run and did my usual stuff. Level up and then find a nearby place of interest. My main problem with Recluse is how much work you gotta do to take out enemies sometimes. Balancing your normal attacks with also timing your ability right and making sure you don't run out of FP is pretty tough, but then you get situations like this where you just get to nuke somebody and it all feels worth it. As I traveled around the map on this first day, I had a hard time leveling up much. I obliterated some Oracle envoys, but going into that first night boss, I was only level 6. My anxiety was only heightened when it was revealed that Freya would be that first boss, and even just getting past her little dudes before herself was really hard. Freya appeared and I struggled to even hit her. I went down for the first time pretty quickly, and without a Wending Grace, I went down again shortly thereafter while trying to use my nuke, and that was the end of that run. So what did I learn from that? Recluse sucks ass. No, I'm just kidding. She's actually really solid in trios. She's just not a character that gets that much out of fighting alone. She's more of a backline poking damage or even decent support character. She's not the front and center type like Raider or Wilder, who I much prefer. Still though, I had a job to do and I got back to it. The second run was, and pardon my French, really bad. I didn't accomplish much on the first day, and while the second circle was already closing, I died to the Valiant Gargoyle, and that left me at level 3. I knew better than to waste my time from there on, and I called that run a loss. Third try's the charm though, right guys? No, not right. This run started off way better than the first two. I was even level 7 heading into the first night boss, but man, Recluse just cannot take a fucking hit. I'm so used to being able to like get beat up at least a little bit from bosses, but she just cannot take anything. Alright, run number 4 with Recluse, and this time I was getting pissed off by the trolls at the castle. Trolls they most certainly are, because they were trolling me. Things continued on pretty rough for the rest of this run, even up right until the Night 2 boss fight with the Crucible Knight and the Golden Hippo, where I was damn near dead the entire time, but over the course of like 5 entire minutes, I played like an absolute madman, in a good way, and I somehow managed to win that fight. I have no clue how I pulled that off. I wasn't feeling very confident going into the fight with Gaping Jaw, and I proved my anxieties were spot on when I got absolutely demolished. Barely even touched him. Then, looking at my notes for run number 5, I wrote only 2 words. Fuck you. And I see why, because even though I was level 10 going into the Night 2 boss, I had done pretty well leading up to it, and I was certain that I'd get my shot at Gaping Jerk again. But I was outdone by a quick and very lightning-y old man, and I died before I even got the chance to have a rematch. My notes unfortunately looked eerily similar for run 6, where I wrote, "I don't like you." Not really sure who that was for, honestly, and then I got swarmed by banished knights at the castle, I gave up and wrote, "Fuck Recluse and fuck you." So yeah, I'm not very good with magic, and I'm certainly not very good at balancing Recluse's abilities specifically. This is beginning to be much more difficult than I thought it would be, and we are on the second Night Lord. Yeah, let's speed things up a little, huh? Run number 7 was identical to the first. I died to Freya again on night 1 at level 5. Run number 8 finally made it to the Gaping Jaw again, and the fight went really well. The game doesn't tell you this, but Frost is kind of a secret weapon against the Gaping Jaw, and I was trying my best to do plenty of that. We went back and forth for a while, me trying to frostbite him and him freaking out, and I ended up getting grabbed when he almost had like a fourth of his health left, and that put an end to that. Well, at least we're on the right track now. On to run number 9. This one actually ended in a really funny way. On night 2, the Crucible Knight, again of course, hit me and backed me up into the storm, and I barely had any health left, so I just died. But folks, we are now officially in the double digits for attempts at the Gaping Jaw. Let's try to stop doing that. Quick question, you ever wanted to turn people into human rain? Well, now you can with today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. In War Thunder, you can take control of over 2,500 different vehicles, from the biplanes and armored cars of old to the jets and tanks of the modern day. And you can experience all those incredibly detailed vehicles like never before, because War Thunder has some of the most authentic sound effects in all of gaming. You can try this wonderful game out for yourself completely for free on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and on their brand new mobile version. In each version, you can play around with War Thunder's in-depth customization system. Try out different types of camouflage, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles. And if you click the links below this video, then you can claim a sweet bonus pack that is available on PC or consoles for new players or players that haven't played in the last 6 months. If you're a fan of military history, then there simply is not going to be a better gaming experience out there for you, so come join the 70 million other players in this worldwide community by clicking the links below and trying out War Thunder today. Thank you to War Thunder for supporting the channel. Now back to the video. Starting off, I got dropped almost right at a church, so I got a flask charge and then made a beeline straight for another church nearby, which means I now have 5 flasks in like the first 2 minutes. And I would need lots of the time I just saved, because I then wasted a solid 3 or 4 minutes fighting this banished knight, long enough for the first circle to start closing. Then, while picking a fight with the knight's cavalry, which I definitely should not have, I got ambushed by Morgoth. I was only level 4, and this guy is ruthless, so even though I tried to run away for a while, even leveling up one more time in the process, I eventually had to stand my ground and face him. We fought for what felt like forever, but I came out on top. He gives you a cool buff, and with that, I continued on. I absolutely obliterated these Oracle Envoys, sorry guys, and that gave me a Sacred Pickaxe, which means I can now mix holy stuff in with my ability. I got a rematch that night with the Valiant Gargoyle, a boss that has ended a couple runs now. Keeping my distance paid off, and I was on to day 2. I of course started that day by finishing off the Knight's Cavalry, and because my spells are pretty basic, it took a while, but it was worth it because I got the Death Ritual Spear as a reward. I then killed a Guardian Golem, which gave me a decent staff for the reward, but I got an even better one right after from the Merchant. It gives me some close quarters options, which is great. Like I said before, it's more of the way I like to play, and I was pretty happy about that. And that staff absolutely helped against the Crystallian at the fort the Merchant was outside of, but I didn't really get much for killing that one. But 2 staves really stood out when looting the fort. One does spells with good damage and has a great passive, and the other lets me do frost damage, which, like I said earlier, is kind of the secret weapon against Gaping Jaw. Night was soon closing in, but I made the horrible decision to test Loretta's Gangster, and what's the opposite of paid off? Well, it did the opposite of paying off. I was level 9 entering the Night 2 boss fight, certainly not where I wanted to be, and for what I think is like the 7th time, I was up against the Crucible Knight and his buddy once again. Me and the Crucible Knight traded some heavy hits. I was loving Recluse's combos against this guy because they pretty much all go through his shield, which is awesome. And then when fighting the Golden Hippo, I basically just kept shooting it. I don't know, man, that hippo really ain't shit. Alright, I guess I deserve that. The hippo went down and his friend followed suit. That means it's me and the Gaping Jaw once again, and even though I was only level 11, I felt pretty prepared. I started off by making him throw up, which admittedly was rude, but he paid me back for it right away. The attack I then stuck with for the most part was the ice bolt thing. I got kinda reckless though, and he dropped me for it. And then 10 seconds later, he grabbed me, bled me, and I died again. fuck. I had one more Wending Grace, but all of the bravado I just had was now all gone. All I could do was keep fighting though. I kept poking him with Shattering Crystal because honestly it's stronger than it has any right to be, and even though it isn't the most exciting strat, playing really safely and focusing on counter-attacking instead of just normal attacking was absolutely what I needed to do because I eventually picked him apart with my spells, and in the end I tore through his health bar and got the win. Man, maybe magic users aren't all brain dead like people think. Nah, they suck. So we are 3,000-ish words into this script and are now starting the third Night Lord. I'd better start actually trying now. Yeah. Well, for that third Night Lord, the Sentient Pests, I picked up Duchess. She's one of the 2 characters you have to unlock, and I will talk about the other one soon, but Duchess is a pretty awesome character. She's not like the best character, but she's an easy to learn, hard to master type. I think I said that in my first Nightreign video, but I think it still holds true. Dropping in for the first time and fighting the little dudes in this camp made me feel like I was Goku when he takes the weighted clothes off. I am just not good at using magic, really not good. But with a character like Duchess, who has much better physical stats, I may not be the best, but I am not now hindered by a playstyle that I'm uncomfortable with. I proved that by taking out the Fire Monk with relative ease, and that granted me the Meteoric Ore Blade with Horalu's Earthshaker on it, which is a sick Ash of War. I got a Wakizashi from killing the Oracle Envoys, those guys are just not having a good day, and then I went over to the castle. Bubbles started forming, whatever the fuck that means, and because of that, I got distracted, and BBH slapped me with his BBC, big black sword. I got my runes back, but didn't really push my luck further than that with him, and instead went towards the top of the castle and started trying to pick off Crucible Knights. I say trying because I'm still level 4, and I'm basically slapping these fuckers with a wet napkin. I ended up killing a grand total of 3 knights before I had to dip. The boss for that first night was the Battlefield Commander, and it took about 7 seconds to take like 40% of his health. Then I made great use of the Thug Shaker skill, and by the time 45 seconds had passed, the commander was dead and I was heading into day 2. Again, just so much more comfortable with Duchess than Recluse. I then got lucky and found not only the Ritual Sword Talisman, but also Little Demon Man. He gave me the Symbol of Avarice, and then I ran off to start grabbing the remaining flasks. After that was done, I ran into Loretta, and man, going back and watching the footage for this game is hard because I get to see exactly how much time I wasted on certain bosses, and after dying to Loretta twice total, this fight took me 3 whole minutes, which might not sound like a lot at first, but you gotta remember that each day is, I think, 20 minutes, so wasting 15% of the day on one boss doesn't feel very good. Now, I have no clue what was going on in my mind, but I next went straight into the storm and fought a Pumpkinhead to get a smithing stone too. Was it brave? Yes. Did it work? Yeah. But am I kinda stupid? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably, yeah. Unfortunately though, I died on my way to the final circle. Shit. Well, I still gotta fight the boss either way, and for night 2, it was the Great Worm. I don't love these guys. I really don't. They just kind of run too much. They run too much. They really just run too goddamn much. They aren't super hard though, so I was able to put him down pretty quickly. Then I decided to brave the storm to grab my runes, and I'm so glad I did because I safely got them and made it back to the circle. So for the last boss, I have a Fire Uchi, which I must have missed somewhere in there, and I've also got 2 Wending Graces, which gives me some leeway. But here we go, folks, it's bug time. In my last Nightreign video, I talked about how I hated the bugs, and yeah man, they still suck. The bugs are shitty and boring, and to beat them, you basically just have to play one long game of tag. But thank the fucking stars, I beat them on my first try. Fuck you, bugs. It's time for our 4th Night Lord, and for this one, I had to go and unlock another character. To get Revenant, I use Wilder, because not only is he my favorite character, but also just being able to grapple her is way too OP to ignore. But after getting her, I flew into the Augur Expedition. Now, I think most of you are gonna assume that I don't like Revenant, and while you're kinda right, you're also stupid and wrong. No, I'm just kidding. She's cool, cool, and being able to summon little bastards, even if you're just using them as meat shields, is incredibly helpful to split aggro, especially if you're casting lots of spells. Her little claw things are super fun to use, and because of that, I picked up a smithing stone too so that I could improve them later. The first day of this run really wasn't anything super special though. I did eventually upgrade the claws and put them to work against the Erdtree avatar. They were a lot weaker than I thought they'd be. Well, fuck it, night 1 boss time, and it is Godric? Huh, yeah, if I remember right, at least I wrote in my notes that this was the first time I had ran into him in Nightreign. Well, he is easy work, unfortunately. Well, unfortunate for him, I mean. Now, was day 2 more eventful? Not really. I killed the Oracle envoys again, which is funny. I hit up an Everjail and beat up on a Crucible Knight. I took out a Lion Guardian with relative ease, and then I got silly and decided to Skyrim my way up a mountain. Then I did battle with the Mountaintop Ice Dragon, and by the time we were done, the circle was closing in around me. And the boss for that night was a super cool and fun boss, the Godskin duo. Well, at least I've got some backup of my own. But why couldn't they just add more Dark Souls bosses instead of putting these fucking guys in the game? It'll forever bug me that they keep using these fucking guys together. Split them up. Take these two and get them far away from each other. Alright, now we are on to the final boss, and it is time to... Man, I don't want to complain again. Let me say this in a much less whiny kind of way this time. Rarest is not my cup of tea. I do not enjoy the gameplay loop of this boss fight, and even though it's a pretty annoying fight, it is also pretty easy, so it's hard to hate it too much. It just kind of feels like I'm watching a cutscene when I fight this thing, and the cutscene doesn't suck per se, but I'm definitely not having a great time while it happens. Like I said though, not that hard, just gotta be patient, and I did a decent job of that, once again defeating a Night Lord on my first try. For the next Night Lord, I will be using the character that I probably had played the least of going into this little challenge, and that character is Guardian. Guardian is strange. I don't dislike him at all. He's cool. I just am not a big fan of halberds, which I think puts him off for me a little bit, but I don't really know. I knew I was gonna have to do some learning for this one. Starting off in the first run, I felt pretty good after I bullied a Crystallian, but that good feeling was stripped away almost immediately after because I ran into the Evil Executor and Raider, and they are way too strong. Well, fuck those guys. I killed a few bosses before the night hit, but when it did, I was up against... Why, man? Whatever. I did a whole rant about this guy in my last Nightreign video. I am not doing it again. All I can say is boo, boo, fuck you, boo. I won, though. I continued winning as day 2 went on. Or I did, at least up until 6 levels stronger this time, mind you. I once again got bullied by those wannabes. Seriously, man, why are they so strong? I had no idea they were this tough. I am never coming back to one of these things again. I lost a lot of time messing around with them, and then when night 2 came, I found the old Crucible duo once again. I don't mind these guys. They're kind of a silly combo, but they sure keep showing up a lot. I was only level 10, but with no flasks left, I clutched up. But that would not be the case against Libra. Honestly, I feel like for only being level 12, and for this being one of the first times I've played Guardian, I did pretty well. Not well enough to win, but definitely well enough to gain some confidence. I took that confidence and jumped right back into the fray. Run 2 started off like every other run, picked off a few little guys, tackled the boss at a nearby fort, and this time I got a weapon with a 6 skill on it, the Black Flame Tornado. I continued picking off weaker enemies until I found the Godskin Apostle in an Everjail. He and I fought hard, and in the end... Damn. Well, I guess that means I win, right? I mean, I get to come back, and all I really lost was like 10 seconds. That also let me improve my dodge, which is great because Guardian's dodge fucking sucks. Speaking of sucks, I don't know why I thought wasting the next 2 minutes on getting bodied by the Draconic Tree Sentinel was a good idea, but it certainly was not. More bad ideas came shortly after when I went into this cave, and with barely any time left, I of course died. Thankfully, the battlefield commander really isn't all that tough, and even at level 5, I took him out without letting it get too down to the wire. I of course grabbed all my lost runes and picked up the smithing stone 2 that I was after, and then continued pissing myself off by dying to old DTS when he was literally 1 hit away from death. Like I always do, I got my run back, and then found a good friend of mine once again, the Leonine Misbegotten. It's awesome when you find him at the bottom of the castle because, like I said earlier, he's pretty easy, and he drops a lot of runes when he's down here, and is, I think, guaranteed to give you a purple item. I got the Envoy's Longhorn, not bad at all, and then I went on an absolute tear through the rest of the castle. I killed just about every knight, and then of course took out the boss on the top, the Erdtree Avatar. The second circle closed in the mountaintops again, but this time I was level 14 and felt way more confident. The boss appeared, the Deathrite Bird, and I beat the ever-loving shit out of it. I am not gonna lie, I barely even a fight with that guy. He really hates holy damage, huh? Well, I was sitting incredibly well off going into the fight against Libra. Level 14, just barely missed 15, and I had a lot of good items. I didn't make a deal, of course, fuck that, and our fight started. I got a little dammy in there while he was standing up, but he retaliated pretty quickly. Then I hit a stun that even shocked myself, and I realized that Guardian might just be fucking nasty. I got another stun in, literally I think it was 19 seconds later, and then I broke his stupid little bubble thing. That pisses him off, but I much prefer this version of him than the heavily defensive version. And you know what? This is exactly what I'm missing from Maris. I feel like Libra genuinely wants to rip my head off, and Maris like barely even wants to fucking look at me. Sorry, random time to complain, it just popped in my head. I failed to break his bubble the second time, but that was okay because he was damn near dead at that point, and even though I unfortunately got dropped by him twice right in a row, he was a nut hair away from death, and I plucked that hair. GG, Libra. Now, it wasn't until writing this script that I realized I had left my 3 best characters for last. Well, let's start with my best character by a mile, Wilder. He just fits my playstyle very well, and he, at this point, was actually the only character I could have selected against Folore because he was the only boss I hadn't beaten with Wilder yet. Starting off at level 1, I took on Miranda and put her ass down. That gave me a 10% rune gain buff, which was awesome this early on, but I was soon then after cursed by the scale-bearing merchant, and I had to pay him 15k. All good, I took an armament as my reward, and even though the Erdtree bow isn't the best weapon for Wilder, especially against this Night Lord, I was still glad I got to gamble a bit. It's kind of a problem. Going into Night 1's boss fight, I found myself once again at level 5. I gotta stop doing that, man. And they gotta stop putting me up against goddamn Wormface. Boo! Again, boo! Well, I am the GOAT, so I put him down and carried on to day 2. On the lake, I found an Elder Lion, which is basically free runes, and then I got the Magma Scale Blade off a dead dude's body. Now, believe it or not, as much as I complain about shit like Scarlet Rot and Poison and all that, the Rotted Woods is actually by far my favorite of the Shifting Earth events. I love it, because after you get your stupid little power-up, you can just fight a bunch of bosses over and over. That's what I'm here for, man, and that's what I tried to do. I started off with the Deathrite Bird, and even though I cut it a little close in some spots, I beat him without dying at all. Then I found the Tree Sentinel right after, and even though he can be tough at certain levels, at level 11 he's not really putting up much of a fight anymore. But I didn't have time for much else because the circle was closing fast, so I ran to the center. The boss for Night 2 was the real GOAT, the Nameless King. His first phase is kind of a joke, usually, at least in Elden Ring, where you have a lot more options of movement and things like that than you did in Dark Souls 3, and even when he moved on to phase 2, I was still kind of beating his ass. Okay, well, after taking a nice deep breath, I got my shit together and actually beat his ass. I love that guy, man. And you know what else I love? No, not Folore, though he is a fun boss and has grown on me quite a bit, but I love the Vow of the Indomitable Ash of War. I used it to decent effect against him in this fight, and I would highly recommend giving it a shot, if you can find it, if you're struggling against this guy. But let's be honest, we all knew this was a first try situation. Sorry, Folore, you didn't really stand a chance. In the first Nightreign video I made, I mentioned that Iron Eye is one of my favorite characters and was my first main. While Wilder has obviously filled the role, as I have said so many times, of best and favorite character, Iron Eye is still a close second. So for Caliggo, a boss that I've kind of struggled with since beating it for the first time, I figured Iron Eye would be a good pick. Getting right into the first run, I almost immediately found a great bow with the Rain of Arrows Ash of War, and a short bow with the same skill, which are both amazing finds. I used those bows to kill an Elder Lion, though we did trade, which wasted like 10 seconds for me, and then I went went after a fire monk that was nearby to try and get a fire weapon of some kind, and hey, look at that, a bow that does fire damage. That bow was incredibly helpful in killing Miranda pretty quickly, and then even though I usually wouldn't go up here until the second night, I ran into the Rotted Woods to find where the power-up location was, which hopefully would save me some time later. That night's boss was the Duke's Deer Freya, which meant I had a chance to get some revenge for that recluse run earlier. And boy did I. I think I only got hit like once or twice. I tore that freaky monster up. As day 2 began, I ran to the castle to start farming some runes. I died to the Red Wolf, who was like literally 1 health left when I died, and I of course came back and finished it off. I realized though that my best chance to get runes and some decent weapons would be to head right into the Rotted Woods to fight some big bosses. But of course, the first boss I found was the Bell-Bearing Hunter. What are they feeding this guy? He is unreasonably durable. He's been drinking his milk or something. His fucking bones are strong. Like, yeah, I'm not that high level. I think I'm level 8, but I was basically just tickling him. Shit, he even fully shrugged off my ult as if it didn't even happen. I am stupid and stubborn though, so I sat there and fought him to the death, which took so much longer than it should have. Like I said a little bit ago in the Wilder run, the Rotted Woods is a really fun place for me. I just really dig fighting bosses, and this place is basically a boss rush. And next in line for that rush was the Ancestor Spirit, and killing him went pretty quickly, and it rewarded me with the Erdtree Bow, which, while not specifically good at countering Caliggo, is still a pretty great weapon. I also managed to pick off the Erdtree Avatar before the circle fully closed, and then I really pushed my luck against the Tree Sentinel. The circle was just coming too quick though, trust me circle, I get it, so I went to face the second night's boss instead. That boss was the Dancer of the Boreal Valley, and I absolutely, positively destroyed her. No hit, no diff, it felt great. Now, going into the fight with Caliggo, I was only level 12, but I felt very confident. Iron Eye is just an all-around solid character, and the weapons I had weren't bad at all, so I knew I could do this. We started off pretty slowly, the damage I was doing was kind of abysmal, but I did a decent job of not getting hit by any attacks too big. And as the fight carried on, we really just kind of poked at each other a lot. I mean, yeah, that's Iron Eye's job, that's no surprise there. But Caliggo was also just kind of poking back at me, not really knocking me down super hard or anything, just chipping away at my health while I chipped away at theirs. But thankfully, I am a cheater and I have flasks to heal myself, and Caliggo got outlasted. Which means, folks, we are done with 7 of the 8 expeditions. We've just got 1 more to go before getting that achievement. So, obviously, I saved Executor for last, and I think he's a really neat character, which makes him a good fit for the last fight, who I think is also the coolest Night Lord. I wasted no time diving into that final Night Aspect expedition, and it started off very normally. Unfortunately, I got stuck fighting the Crystallians in the first ever jail I opened, which sucked up a massive amount of time, but by the time the Night 1 boss came around, the Grafted Monarch again, I was at level 6, and I felt pretty good. I didn't do very good, though. Going down twice and using a Wending Grace I had picked up. The second day sucked total donkey scrotum because I got stuck fighting this dragon for way too long, but it was, I thought, worth it once I got Rivers of Blood as a reward. But I had wasted too much time that day, and even though I was able to kill the Golden Hippo and Loretta as well before my time was up, I was level 10 going into the second night. The boss for that night was the Nameless King, and I've done really well against him in most of the encounters I've had against him, but this time it felt like he was just dog-walking me. I went down twice, just like the first night, and when it was all said and done, I was level 12 going into the fight with Healstore. I hope I'm saying that right. I was level 12 against Caliggo, but I had confidence on my side for that one. This time, not so much. Confidence or not though, I put up one hell of a fight. I got through his first phase, but then I got confused in his second phase, forgetting that I had lost one of my Wending Graces to the Nameless King, and so when the boss had barely any health left, I was fighting recklessly, thinking I could still revive again, and it got me killed. Shoot. Well, no first try for this expedition. I dove right back in, but that was definitely a mistake because I was pretty tilted, to be honest, and so when I had a rough start, I just straight up Alt F forward. I came back after drinking my bottle and changing my diaper, and the first thing I did was sleep off that Shifting Earth event. I think the Nakatello, I think is what it's called, Shifting Earth, is by far my least favorite. Not that there's anything specifically wrong with it, but I wanted to just do this run raw for the last boss, and I was determined to do it on this next try. I did not want to keep doing multiple tries. This run, as I've said so many times now, started off like most others. Hit level 2 at the little camp they drop you at, seek out smaller bosses at the nearby encampments, this time being Royal Army Knights, and then I set out to get some flasks. In the process, I was invaded by Augur, which is fine. I like the power you get from him, so even though Augur itself wasn't very fun to fight, it was worth it in the end. I headed to the castle after that and found the bell-bearing hunter, and you would think that by now I would know better than to fight him this early, and with the second circle closing in, of course, made it even worse, but I did not know better and I died. No biggie though, because the boss for the first night was the ulcerated tree spirit, and while I don't like these guys, famously having deemed them the piss and shit monsters, they aren't really that difficult for me anymore, and because of that, I hate them much less than I used to. I put that weirdo down, and then I got busy on day 2. Busy wasting my fucking time. I'm just such a stupid bastard, man. I went right back to the castle and fought the bell-bearing hunter for like 3.5 minutes, which again is a very large chunk of the day. Thankfully, I did it without dying though, but my rewards were less than impressive. Now, I like when the Crucible Knights are at the castle, and I don't at all dislike the Banished Knights, but I, and I think plenty of others, despise the trolls. So fucking annoying. I killed one of them, got mad, and just went to the very top instead, where I was promptly put down like a sick dog. Like I said a few minutes ago, though, I am a dangerous combination of stupid and stubborn. I marched right back up there and wasted most of the remainder of day 2 getting revenge, and while I did once again get rivers of blood, I'm kind of disappointed in hindsight of my complete and utter lack of self-restraint. Rivers came in handy on the way to the second circle though, because it helped me tear up the Ancestor Spirit in like a matter of seconds. I was guaranteed to hit max level now, going into that night's boss at level 14, and when the Outland Commander, I like to call him the Outlander Commander, appeared, I fucked him in holes he didn't even know he had. But yep, here we are, gang. Max level, got rivers of blood, a single Wending Grace, and I am feeling invincible. Let's see if that's true. I had a decent weapon for this fight, a Sacred Butcher's Knife, and I used it to, and I hate to brag, masterful effect to start things off. I started fumbling a little towards the end of the first phase, but I still got through it without having to use a single flask thanks to the Prayerful Strike Ash of War, which does some healing for you. I went into the second phase running at full capacity, but this guy only has 1 speed, and that speed is fast as fuck. I felt like I was playing Sekiro, I guess that's kind of the appeal of Executor, but I was not doing very well. Thankfully my ult got me out of a sticky sitch, and while I did some decent damage during it, I still felt like I was now operating from behind. He had all the momentum, but an insanely lucky stun pulled me back in. I almost went down over and over, my health was dropping to almost 0 several different times, but during his big attacks, I was managing to stay on my feet, hitting some very necessary deflects. Before I knew it, he was down to 1/3 of his health. I got another great stun, and a third became a fourth pretty quickly. I still had a Wending Grace, so I was fighting like a reckless freak, but I can't say it didn't pay off, because even though he had switched to his lightning form and knocked me down once, I had gotten my ult back, and I used it to finish this battle. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. Although, to be totally honest with you, and I didn't want to say this at the start to ruin things, I already had this achievement before I even started recording this video. I just thought it'd be fun to have a little journey, and we could, we could all hang out and have a good time, and it was fun. I'm glad I did it. Before we go, I want to thank War Thunder again for supporting the channel. War Thunder is available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and on mobile devices. It is a fantastic time to try out War Thunder because they've got that bonus pack for new players or players that haven't played in the last 6 months on PC or consoles, so make sure you click the links below to take full advantage of that. It gives you some premium vehicles, in-game currency, and more. Thanks again, War Thunder. And I've got to say it again because I realize now how important it is. If you had fun watching this video, leave a like. I can unequivocally say now that likes do matter a lot in the current state of YouTube's algorithm, so you can make a difference. So I'd really appreciate if you left a like. Nightreign is an awesome game, and I think my next challenge is going to be to beat the Night Lords in this same fashion, but without dying at all. That would be insane, and my junkin nuts are already hurting just thinking about it. But if that's something you'd like to see, the video, not my junkin nuts, let me know. And let me know if you go out and try this exact same challenge for yourself. Tell me what lineup you used for which Night Lords. I'm curious to see how your lists would differ from mine. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm not quite done with Nightreign, so I hope to see you all again very soon. GG's, everybody.